Another new feature in PHP related to functions is in PHP 5.6 we have introduced the Variadic functions. These are functions with variable numbers of arguments, and it's much nicer than trying to work with the old style func get args, where you don't necessarily have to declare all of the parameters which will be accepted by a function or a method, but to access them was always a little bit untidy in PHP. So here's an example of how we would do this before we had the Variadic functions feature in 5.6. So I've used func get args here. My concatenate function takes a transform argument, and then the rest are all pieces which should be concatenated together and then transformed. So you can see that I'm trying to array shift the first of the arguments which has a special meaning, and then capture the rest of the arguments to use to concatenate together. Compare this with what we have in PHP 5.6 then, which is to just say the first argument is the transform and everything else is the strings to use. See this ... operator in my parameters list here. So that allows us to say variable 1, variable 2, variable 3 and the rest. A very nice way of dealing with variable arguments. So you'll see this ... referred to as the splat or scatter operator because it kind of scatters your variables across, and dollar strings will be an array. You can see here I've just for eached over it, and then the transform is safely in its own variable. The Variadic functions I think are a really nice addition. We sometimes don't know how many things will be passed into a function or a method, and this allows us to deal with that. PHP 5.6 also introduced something that's almost the opposite of Variadic functions, and it's called argument unpacking. So we used to have a situation where if you had 3 variables that you needed to pass into a function, and the variables were already in an array, then you had to specifically refer to each one and pass one variable per variable space in the array arguments. I've used the mail command as an example because I guess you're familiar with that. So the mail command takes a to, a subject, and a message. Traditionally, we would use that old syntax that I've shown in the middle there. However, argument unpacking allows us to pass an array of the arguments that function expects and ask PHP to do all of that long-winded unpacking for us. Again, you see the scatter operator there. So it will take whatever's in the $email array. It must be an enumerated array. So that is to say that the keys must be numeric and they need to be in the right order. We can't yet put the associative array keys that should match the variable names, although I hear rumours that perhaps it could happen one day. If you have the array built up with the variables existing in the correct order, then ... and your array, PHP will unpack those for you. So the argument unpacking, I think, is a really nice addition, a really nice way of not having to pass a bunch of data to a particular function and then have to refer to each element in turn. You can assemble the data that you need to use and get PHP to do the hard work with the unpacking. Relatively new feature, PHP 5.6 is due for release sometime in 2014 summer. So it may take a while before this is standard in your current version of PHP. Definitely a feature to look out for though.